I'm Dan Rogers. Today we're here with Mayor Cole Stanely. Cole, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me back, Dan.
Yeah.
What a beautiful day out there today.
Oh, it's spring is in the air.
I'm ready. 3 degrees, not so much fun trying to get stuff built around town.
Yeah, not good. I guess that's why they came up with asphalt, though.
Yeah.
They could put it down in the winter.
Well, there was a few days in between some real cold spells. We were trying to get some stuff done, and everyone else in Amarillo trying to keep to it, and we're all ready for spring break. I mean, it's right around the corner.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of things happening in the city of Amarillo, and I hear that there's lots of chatter on social media that I don't engage in. So I know the AEDC presentation by Alex Fairley was quite interesting. You want to talk about that?
I sure can, yeah. So we can jump into that one. So the chairman over there right now is Alex Fairley. So we have, just to catch anybody up, we've come through a complete board turnover. Had 4 board members that chose to resign, in response to the range. So the range being the issue, the $750,000 wire transfer that wasn't approved, wasn't noticed to the public, wasn't voted on by their board or ours, going to that entity. And so all of that is out there. We're not tiptoeing around it. It's just facts. Let's just keep it in front of the public so they know why we're dealing with this. Otherwise, you get lost in, why is this such a big deal? So because they resigned, we had to place a temporary board. So temporary board is just engaged. Alex Fairley is doing more than I ever expected him to do. I was thankful that he was willing to come and clean up the mess. I love the chatter on Facebook. So as everyone knows, I mean, we're very public with contributions. I took in $110,000 2 years ago to run the mayoral campaign and spent it all. I had some large donors. Alex was my largest at $40,000. So I fundraised $70,000 outside of him. The guy's never asked me to do one thing for him, but I have asked him to do a lot. And so asking him to come in and clean up the mess is the last thing you'd want to do to your largest donor. Yeah. So the chatter is like, well, I mean, I guess he bought the mayor, and so he gets to get in there and deal with all this. Nobody wants to deal with this, but he's taken it on. I think he just likes a challenge. And so he's working very diligent. And what he started with was the numbers. And so what we got really a week ago, last Tuesday, was we were told some things, and we had concerns. My concern was we were going to run out of money in the AEDC. We were going to have a Bell helicopter, a really good project, and we weren't going to have the $40 million that we could go and do the project. That's the exact opposite. We have $89 million sitting on the books over there. It hasn't been invested like it needs to. And then we thought we had 7,000 jobs that had either been brought here already, added. That economic engine was just churning and burning over the last 5 years. So the numbers that he produced over the last 15 show a different story. His numbers, whether you agree with them or not, were around 1,500 jobs.
I think that was giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Well, you got you've got 900 of those that are Amazon.
Yeah,
which was here before they engaged. Yeah, so I mean, it's kind of a, hey, since you're coming anyway, do you mind if we partner with you? And so the main thing that Mr. Fairley went to is like the culture of EDCs, all economic development, has got to change. It's got to become more public. You've got to be more transparent. You got to show people where their money's going. This idea that everything, is concealed and kind of classified document and nobody gets to know until the business is here puts you at a disadvantage to then coming out and telling everybody, well, here's what you've done. And so following up on all these contracts, seeing the jobs realized. So when we got that, what we figured out is that, economic development is a engine that we want and that we need. And I think we still want to compete when we need to compete, but these deals have to be done in a better way. We've got to drive a harder bargain. We got to have a better vision. We were asking for a strategic business plan, really 2 years ago now, and we still don't have it. But, we consequently, Mr. Fairley and the existing director decided to part ways. And so They're going to go out for a search. We're going to have a new director in that position. We need that leadership. And then the criticism is there, that it's somehow political for me or for this council. We didn't do any of this. This is not at all what I would like to be dealing with. I want to work on policy and initiatives. For me to deal with all this that kind of came to us as a huge mess. And then for us to have to clean it up, it's part of it, but the numbers don't lie. And if you focus on the numbers, we've got to turn out more job growth, and that economic engine is going to do fine, but we don't have the pipeline there that we thought. They thought, well, we got all these that are coming this way. Like CVMR is one that's not going to realize, and so we pulled the plug.
So what is the range?
Well, in my opinion, it's supposed to be this global food hub, synergistic engine that draws every resource from around the panhandle. They sell memberships so that they can get you engaged, and then they go out and they look for grants, essentially, to go and research and develop and do different things. And so you and I, being private businessmen, we look at almost everything that the range is attempting to do as something that's already being done. You're already doing all this. So it's a club, more or less, and we're a member. We're the largest member. But it's nothing that I have a deliverable on. I don't have anything that shows me, hey, over the last 3 years, here's what we've done with your money.
So they're wanting to go get like federal grants?
Correct, yeah. And the biggest issue with this is, this entity was created with monies now that we know that are public monies. So this is your entity, but it's been given to private individuals. And so, these private individuals own the range because it's a 501c6 and they're in control of it. And there's no oversight.
They're probably getting paid to run it.
We wouldn't know. We've asked for financials, haven't been given any financials, so I don't have those. We've asked for deliverables. Every deliverable I've been given is something that's already being done. So, whether it's a broadband initiative that was started with the city of Amarillo and finished with Region 16, or it's something ag, farm, and ranch that's already going. The whole thing is, I guess I'd say it this way. You can do the right thing in the wrong way. So let's say it's a really good organization and that it has all this upside. Well, it wasn't done that way. And so right now in today's climate, I don't have the trust of my taxpayer and my voter. What I have is the opportunity to do business in front of them. And so we've been very diligent about trying to keep everything out in front. And the range was set up in a way where none of it was done in front of us. And I've been accused of being grossly misinformed. Well, how would I be informed about an entity that I was never told about? Yeah. Like, it hit me in the back of the head.
Say, well, that's right. That's the problem.
Right. Well, when a citizen brought it to me and said, hey, you voted for this, I said, no, I didn't vote for it. We go back through, and I'm like, sure enough, there's $750,000 I didn't vote for. I'm like, there's no way that happened. So I'm arguing with my own citizen, like, no, it didn't happen. And then come to find out, no, it did happen. Nobody knew about it. I mean, how would I know if it's not a public noticed item?
So it was something that was brought up before the council, and y'all turned it down?
So no, it was previous council that voted for a membership fee of $100,000
to the range,
to the Amarillo Global Food Hub, and
Global Food Hub.
Amarillo Global Food Hub. They changed the name to the range, same entity, doesn't matter, but
they changed the name. So it's Amarillo Global. So we're going to be the global hub for India. Sri Lanka.
The vision and the mission statement of it is so broad. It's hard to know, like, where does it start, where does it stop?
Anytime I see the word global, red flags go up.
Well,
so they figured that out and changed
it to the range, rebranded
to sound West Texas-y.
Sure, but then not the problem. The people that are involved, not the problem. The entity, not the problem. The problem essentially is in one item. Public monies produce this out of the EDC.
So instead of getting $100,000, which is what the previous council had authorized,
Correct.
y'all see a wire for $750,000.
Well, had to go dig for that. So had to know the right questions to ask and pull the documents to get it. Was told by Citizen A, hey, this was funded with a wire transfer, and I literally disputed it and said, no, you're wrong. That's not
can't
how,
happen.
that can't happen, and
it happened.
and it happened. Yeah. So my choice in this was singular. Accountability and transparency. And so like this happened, should not have happened, call it what it is, it's wrong, and clean up the mess. And so trying to work through it with those individuals that were on the board and also the individuals that are involved in that entity, I haven't gotten there. So, to this day, we still have citizens saying like, give us our money back. So that's the chatter on Facebook is we want our $750 back. And I don't dispute that. I think either you need to give the money back and run your organization without it, or you need to produce these financials. You need to show everybody what you're doing, and you need to bring it in some sort of oversight with an elected body.
Sounds like you need to do all the above.
Potentially. Right now, what we're doing is just, keeping it in the middle of politics, unfortunately. And so would love to get it back on the table where we actually deal with the problem. And it's just a political football out there for the next 2 months.
So what happened with the police chief?
So that's a good question. I was noticed that there was a letter, and it was definitely something that anybody can write on behalf of an individual. Not the problem at all for us, but city manager was caught off guard. Didn't know that the chief had offered that letter. So that was an issue for council of maybe a judgment issue of you can have an opinion. We definitely believe in First Amendment. You can do whatever you need to do, both personally and publicly as the chief. But then you've got to always be thinking about those 400 individuals that are under your command and the entire entity you represent. And so for that, I think we got into discussions with the city manager of how do we work through this. Pretty good sized public outcry because of the nature of the individual that was being attested to, and I say probably the character of the individual, the nature of the crime that was, he pled guilty to it, so it wasn't like a question of guilt or innocence, but put everybody in the PD in a hard place, put our community in a hard place. There was no right answer. Wanted to honor our police chief, 35 years worth of service, law enforcement professional, but cannot write a letter like that without having consequences. So, the organization underneath the guidance of the city manager making his own decision after talking to council, decided like we need to work towards a separation. And so that came in the form of a retirement, and so like mayor is getting beat up, in the public eye for not being harsh enough. I mean, allowing him to retire, like they wanted a capital punishment charge, and doesn't deserve that for sure. The other side is like you can't consequence the chief for just writing a letter. He can do whatever he wants, and the real truth is it's a balance.
But he didn't sign it as police chief.
No, he signed it personally.
So
yeah.
So
really, what for us, I mean, like there's no offense there that warrants a termination. So like the city manager can't terminate the police chief for that. Now there's judgment in that of could you have done something better? Should you have followed a different protocol? Absolutely. And I think the chief being a good person and looking out for his entity as well, saw that maybe a retirement was the best path forward for those people involved. And then for us, we were trying to balance, the victim and the victim's family having to deal with this in the negative light of how do we move this forward. And obviously we didn't feel like we could continue walking that road together.
Yeah, you're just trying to get the problem resolved, and he admitted he made a mistake or bad judgment and
Sure. So
retired out, and you're done.
yeah, I think council recognizes he's not our employee. Right. He's the employee of the city manager. It's city manager's responsibility to deal with it. City manager chose the path of retirement along with him. And then council just wanted to honor the person, but also hold accountable the position. And so it was being able to split the person away from the position. So the position needed to change, and it has. Chief Jimmy Johnson is our interim police chief here now, and he'll do a fantastic job. City manager and staff will go out and perform a search, take all applicants, and then we get this thing right back on the road. And then we have so much momentum in public safety, and just got to keep moving forward with building morale. And ultimately, I hated the course of events for all parties involved.
Yeah, it's a sad situation. My thought is, if he would have signed it as police chief, termination. Right?
You would have had
but
to.
It was a personal thing. It came to light. He shouldn't have, as police chief, he probably should have the presence of mind not to write the letter. But it's hard to say no to somebody you know.
Well, and
it happened.
Yeah, it definitely is mayor. I have plenty of things that I look back on and I say, well, I would have done that different.
Yeah.
But as
mayor,
mayor,
just not thinking.
Yeah, as mayor, I'm up for re-election here in 2 months, and I'll be held accountable for those things that I wish I'd have done different. And so, that evaluation will either get me appointed to that position again or not. Somebody else will take it over, and that is the leadership criteria, and it falls on that position of police chief as well, even though he's not an elected official.
Yeah, sometimes let the city manager handle it and get it resolved and go on.
Sure. Well, I hope I'm saying that the right way so everybody can hear. We had a role in it as council in kind of judgment, confidence, but then we didn't have the role as council to make the final decision, and we were trying to honor that with allowing management to do their job.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's over. And nobody was harmed.
It actually is. It was a really bad 2 weeks and a lot of work, and it was unfortunate. I mean, I just hate that it was unfortunate for so many involved, but outside of feelings, then we're moving forward. And
well, it's sad because I haven't heard anything but good things about the job that he was doing.
Yes, and I think I know he had a lot of respect from his police department, and he worked well with the new city manager, and I always got along with him fine. But then I think you definitely have to do what's best for the team, and the team is all of Amarillo, and so sometimes you just go through a change like that when no matter how good a job you've done as quarterback.
We see it in our private business. We have really good employees, and something happens, and you have to get rid of them, and you think but you always find the next person, and they're always even better.
Sure.
And down the road you go.
Right, and life moves on. So we're moving.
Well, very good. So what else is the hot items of the day?
Oh, I've been given some updates on Councilman Sherlin. So not to jump into his private health, but to go ahead and just give a thank you to all those who have been visiting him in the hospital, following up, text messages, all the prayers, just praying for healing. And the Lord really did work all things together for his good, for Tom. He's a hard-headed SOB. And, I called him on a Monday. I said, hey, how you doing? He's like, I've been sick. And I'm like, really? I didn't know. But he's like, I'm going to be there tomorrow. And I said, you don't need to come to the meeting. So when he showed up at the meeting, he looked really, really pale, like just no life in his face. And you could tell he was laboring to breathe. So we had AMS there to just put some vitals on him, and blood pressure was like 70 over 35. Wow. So he went to the ER. He spent the last week and a half really in the ER and the recovering room. So he's in med surg now, but hopefully he'll go home in a couple days. And then what I can say is he had an internal bleed due to, an issue, and was unaware of it. So if you think about it, if he hadn't have been so hard-headed, he might have made it all the way to the recliner and then just, have passed on. And so like, I'm super thankful that, he had an opportunity to get some medical, treatment and that they got him to the hospital. So, he's a great man. I love working with him. He's like the Wilford Brimley of Amarillo, just everybody's favorite granddad. And,
Yeah, I talked to him that morning. He let me know that meeting was going on because I didn't know it was happening. So I ran over there and sat in the back. But Tom Sherman made some really good comments.
Yeah,
in the meeting. So but he told me he'd been sick.
Mm-hmm.
Had the stomach. He thought it was a stomach.
Thought
virus,
it was the flu,
but I guess it was like a bleeding ulcer or
right?
something.
Yeah.
So that's good that they got him in. So I guess we can thank the range.
That's right. You can thank you can thank Fairley for getting sick the week before.
There you go.
Because Fairley was supposed to give his presentation the week before. We postponed it. So if you really think about the way things worked, you know, I was disappointed that we couldn't get the presentation the week before because we noticed the public, hey, we got a big thing coming. We don't know what it is, and we had to kick it down the road a week, and then you know, he got out of bed and got in there and ended up well. You know, so he'll be back within 2 weeks. I would imagine he'll probably be, you know, back trying to make a little movement. So, but he'll have to go slow for a minute.
Yeah, I sent him a text, and I said, because you know the Doge,
local Doge.
I said we could name it Task Force on Ordnance Modernization. Tom,
I got all of your text messages. You got a couple really good ones that my ego likes, but I don't think are going to be the best name. But
yeah, I thought of those when I was driving back from the meeting. I thought, well, we could call it Coal.
Yeah, I liked that one. You know, nobody thinks I'm as funny as I do. I think you may suffer from the same.
I do.
I think you're probably the guy driving down the road and you're laughing to yourself.
That's right.
Yeah, I do this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't come off much as a comedian at all.
I like the dry sense of humor. But yeah, so Sunset Committee didn't get shot down, but it didn't get like fully off the ground. Yeah. So like I was trying to get that up with, for me, I don't want it to look like it's something that the mayor's driving, and I don't want it to be my agenda. So what I wanted to create a committee that would pick its own topic of, hey, here's where we think we could do the most good. Here's the professionals we need. Here's what we're going to go after. These are the results you could expect, and here's how much time it's going to take us. And they could also be in a position of readiness to be reactive for all the stuff that's coming down from the Trump admin. There's so many changes that are happening down there, or up there. But what happened was council was uncomfortable with how broad the vision was. You know, Mayor, we don't want it to be this broad. These guys could just go out there and take on anything. And then we don't know that it's going to be time well spent. So narrow your vision. And I said, perfect. If you'll let me drive along with staff, I'll go get staff to make sure that they could buy into it so that it's not a one-sided agenda of how I want to deregulate government, because I definitely could. But it's got to be an agenda of, here's what I have as a customer that makes my job harder dealing with my own city. Here's what you have as the official that makes your job harder in dealing with me, the customer. Like, let's simplify. And the thing that I'm going to pick on first is energy code. It's by far the easiest thing for us to say, you know, one, I don't know that it even constitutes, you know, private property rights. Like me being able to tell you, you've got to turn the light off. Maybe you want to leave the light on, you know, like, so.
Yeah, I've always had that concern.
Right. But then, you know, outside of that, I think there's a lot of things in just making some services easier. Building safety is one that I know we could work well with because I've got a really good chief over there. And some of the things that he has to enforce, he's like, hey, I wish I didn't have to deal with this, but it's in the code. I got to enforce it. And there's this.
Which code is it? What is the UN code doing and influencing what we do in Amarillo? You know, why does the United Nations have anything to do with it?
And here's the bottom line. You've got to go get the straight out answer of where's this coming from, right? Yep. Why are we doing this? And then what happens if we don't? And that's not a rebellious, immature question. Right. That's a good question. If the answer is, oh, well, you might not get some federal funding one day on a grant, well, let's dig into that.
Who cares?
What's the likelihood of us even applying for that? And if we don't get it, are we funded enough with your money, right? I'm using your money to run these core services. So at the point where I'm becoming dependent on federal grants to service my customer, I'm out of bounds anyway.
Yeah, they're taking money from the people, handing it to a bureaucracy, so you have a bureaucrat determining who's the winner and who's the loser.
Well, and
I don't think that makes sense.
we're seeing right now that if you've built your model on that, you are in the shaking, because the Trump admin has shown everybody nothing is off limits, and we possibly will cut the entire fund or the department. So the local DOJ, the Sunset Committee is very important, and even if we just call it a task force to evaluate and analyze energy codes, you realize the region that I'm in is the same region that Denver is in.
Yeah.
Denver's 10,000 feet.
How far south does it go? Doesn't it go?
I don't think it even reaches to Lubbock. If it does, it gets right to
Does
Lubbock. But then Amarillo is being harmed, in my opinion, in our business practice of having to meet certain codes that they don't regulate to our climate.
Right.
And then some of the other things that are coming are not scary; they're just impossible. Like if you force us to get to the 2026 code, knowing what's in it, it just means I can't build it. And then that's
But to me, if I want to spend money and give it to Excel or Atmos Energy, that should be my prerogative.
Yep.
I mean, I should not be. It doesn't even make any sense to me. That should be up to the local city to produce reasonable building codes for their area that benefits, because we're talking about minimums. The building codes are minimums. You can go way beyond that if you want. If you're going to build a house, you could make it 2-foot thick foam encapsulated building if you want. We're just talking about minimum. Some people aren't concerned about that.
No, and industry drives itself. So where I can spend an extra $10,000 and save myself $300 a month on an electric bill on a large building, I'll pay for that. Yeah. But where I have to pay $10,000 to go and get a stamp on this and get that put in, and it didn't save a nickel. Yeah. All it did was just turn the lights off, when I walked out of the room, because it all had to be automated. And it's one more thing that you've got to maintenance and warranty and deal with 10 years down the road. Well, now my whole system doesn't work, and so there's just so much in it. And I look forward to tackling it. This is what leadership, looks like here in Amarillo in today's world.
Common sense.
You're going to have to deal with this. I mean, before, I think there was just so much status quo. It's like, well, let's not rock the boat. Everybody's figuring it out. We're not figuring it out anymore. You're not building affordable housing right now. A starter home is $350,000. Well, that's not a starter salary.
No.
You've got to get yourself back into some parameters. And the way you're going to do that is not with one great fix. It's a lot of little things. And you're going to have to go through those books. And then what good is it being a home rule city if you're just going to adopt everything that they put out?
Yeah, it's coming from the world government, the UN. What do they know about Amarillo?
I think that we definitely have to look at kind of being our nationalist, populist types that believe that we are the boss. Like the citizen is the boss. And the system has to function for that citizen.
Yeah.
Not for the one-off, and not for the bureaucrat, not for the technocrat, and not for that lobbyist that's got some patent that he's pushing through the state ledge that now forces all of us to have a breaker on top of a breaker on top of a GFCI breaker.
On top of it, what's the new, not the ground fault, but what do they call that new one that you have to have everywhere now?
Well, the GFCI is in there. And so you got the push, you got the reset on the outlet, then you got the reset on the breaker, then you got the breaker. And the worst one that I'm looking at right now, and I probably should find some others to pick on. This one's just the easiest. It's having one of those ground fault current interrupters on a heating and air unit. Well, the heating and air unit itself is in the attic. And so my sweet, older lady in town that I build for let's say she's 75-year-old Mrs. Smith, and she lives by herself. Well, she just wakes up one morning and it's really cold. Well, her option is to call an electrician and pay $200 to have him come out there and get in her attic. And maybe she can't get him over there for 3 days. So what are we doing? There is no life safety measure that's being accomplished on that unit up in the attic. And so these are the kind of things that I think we've got to start pushing back on.
When they get weak, and then they affect things all over the house, and you have to know where those all are.
You got to know which one is looped together as well.
Yeah. So it's I run into it occasionally.
Anyway, sorry to be so negative. I just I get really sick to death of
to me, you want things
overregulation.
really safe, but you don't want to do things that, to me, they actually harm. You go to the point to where you overdo it and it becomes harmful to people. Like
Sure.
your 75-year-old lady, it's 3 degrees, 30-mile-an-hour wind. She has no heat, all because of some government regulation. She doesn't know how to reset her GFI.
Right. And so that is the direction not that we're going. That is the direction we have already gone.
Yeah.
And so if we are just adopting everything that's here, it's here. We've got to move ourselves forward by probably retracting and going back to some more solid codes.
Yeah.
Now, how far I'll get with this, I don't know. But council gave me the authority to go and put together this very narrow, targeted vision. I'm going to pick a target. We're going to put together the experts, see if we've got any money we got to spend, or if we can get it all paid for with just entities, and then go from there.
Well, you could have more than one task force, right? You could have a task force on ordinance modernization, a task force on the building safety issues.
The goal would be to treat this somewhat like a pilot and show how good it can be. Mm-hmm. And then you gain confidence, you gain a little trust through that, and then you could maybe expand the vision. So if we start with energy code, or if we start with something in say, building regulation or something like that, then I think we're going in a good direction. And, 3, 4, 5 months, I think we'd have enough to bring it back and say, let's expand.
Yeah, I think you could get some tradespeople involved that actually do the work and understand how the systems work efficiently and really based on our area, and get them involved. Some good heat and air guys, some good electricians, and get their input.
Right. I agree 100%. So that's the track we're going down. One of 50 things I'm working on, and just lots of other things. If you let me jump into the next one, a MUD, municipal utility district. The biggest thing we've got to figure out is how to grow. And so right now we tell a developer, hey, you put in the development, you pay for everything. So average development, 3,000 homes, right? That's 3,000 new taxpayers. You want that.
Yes.
Because those monies are feeding into my general fund to pay for those police officers that we need.
And they're paying water and sewer and trash.
They're also ratepayers. I know your favorite drainage tax. So
I don't like that rain tax.
If you push them outside the city limits, you still pay for all those services. Those cars still traffic on your roads, and you are now the one that's bearing 100% of that burden. So we want a way to work with that developer. Well, historically, what we've said is we don't have the money. It's $100 million development. So you put in $70 million, we'll put in $30 million. Well, for a council to come up with $30 million to go put this in and not know, well, maybe you'll have 500 homes, maybe you'll have 3,000. We don't know. So a MUD district, sets it up in a way where you can put that entire entity where they already voluntarily will annex once they pay down the debt. So that developer gets to go and fund $100 million of his $100 million debt. As those homes fill in, you get 2,500, 3,000 homes through the years, then that entire entity annexes into the city. And we get to go ahead and provide sewer, water, and resources, trash, and whatnot. And so it's a win-win. It just hasn't been done here.
So basically, what they do is they're selling bonds.
That's exactly right. They're creating their own little district, which is like a miniature city that then could be adopted into the larger city once it's financially feasible. And it works that way because the taxes.
I guess what I'm saying is the mud is created, and they're able to borrow money,
Correct.
probably through the bond market.
That's right.
Because it gives them the power to tax.
That's right. So now they're borrowing at, say, I mean, we'll just throw out a number, 4%. It's a little higher, but they're not borrowing at 8%. So are we able to get those developments in, get the new water and sewer, and work with them? So we get to set like all of our standards. So you've got to put in this type of pipe. You got to put in curb and gutter. What's happening is we've pushed our developers out, so they decide we're not putting in curb and gutter. We're going to do bar ditches.
Yep.
And we're going to do, every house is going to have its own well. Well, okay, so you now don't have, superior water like we do here in the city. Those wells on that side of town could go dry.
Mm-hmm. It's risky. And you're penetrating that aquifer over and over
again.
Everyone's an access point for
and you are able to build for less, so you can hit a market, but you've now excluded or limited. I'm landlocked in my growth. I can't jump over you to annex the next one.
And they're not being inspected by city inspectors.
I can never annex you because you're not up to standards. So all of those homeowners would have to agree to be annexed before we could take them all. And then they'd have to go put in all of the standards. So it's such a bad way to do business. And we've got some really good developers in town that know how to do this. So council is working on its own mud policy. And we will put together a mud policy that functions for the city and for growth and doesn't disadvantage my taxpayer that's currently carrying the bill, and it doesn't favor the developer any more so than what he was going to do anyway.
He's just basically doing the work of the city up front, so the city doesn't have to.
All it is just putting the liability on the risk partner, which needs to be the developer. He's the one that's going to profit. So I don't want my taxpayer taking the risk of putting in $10 million worth of infrastructure that never gets used. Let him take that risk, but then give us the benefit once that $10 million gets paid off because you have the customers out there. Let us graft that in and grow you in while providing services. It's a win-win. So this is good leadership from your council working on this, and I'm excited about the MUDs. It'll be a good policy for us.
Well, when I was in Austin and was a baby realtor down there, there's a lot of MUDs down in that part of the country, but you just don't see them up here.
No, and it's not something brand new.
They've been around for 50 years.
It's just out of the box. And I mean, we've had some good developers that have just, put it in the price of the lot and just taken the risk on and gone ahead and annexed early. Well, we don't see that as much anymore. So we need to find a new way to grow.
I guess what I would wonder is, okay, if a developer is going to develop, let's say, a 3,000 unit subdivision, he's not going to build all those at one time and sell them all at once. So, he's going to build 20 houses, and so how would that whole system be funded without enough ratepayers in there?
The biggest problem is, as a city, you're not able to take a bite at a time. You got to go put in the arterial. You got to go put in all of the mains. So you're spending a lot of money on the front end if you don't allow the mud. So if you allow the mud to go ahead and cooperate with the city, then he can phase it 500 houses at a time. So he can phase himself into it. He
doesn't have to have all that.
He pays for the arterial
kind of as he goes.
So his $100 million is $30 million up front. And then as he sells those 400 of 500 lots, those houses are coming on, he moves to the next phase. So over the next 5 years, we develop this. And now he's at a position where he's ready to annex that entire mud because he doesn't want to run a small city.
No.
He doesn't want to run a wastewater treatment plant or a water purification system or any of it. So he's ready to move all that out. And what we've done is we've helped our homeowners out there. They knew getting into it that they would be part of the city one day. They knew that their tax rate would be similar, so they're paying the same, so it's not an increase to them.
Yeah, because there's an addendum they'd have to sign on their
That's right.
contract.
They got to know when they're buying that lot that this is part of a MUD that is voluntarily annexed into the city. So there's some really smart lawyers that have worked all that out. Yeah. It's been around for, 20 to 30 years now.
Right, longer. I think it's been around 40, at least 40, if not 50 years.
Yeah. So we think this is a good way to move. We just haven't, a lot of previous admins have had their eyes on shiny things, and they're just thinking that, a convention center is the way to grow the city. It's really not. Like, the way to grow the city is to work with these developers, work within your industrious population. Let's deregulate, let's streamline, let's try to get rid of some red tape. I haven't gotten rid of any red tape. In 2 years, I haven't gotten rid of any of it. I've prevented more of it. I've prevented more of it from coming, which is good, and that's a win. But over these next 2 years, if I get back in office,
people can't see what you stop.
That's right. But they will see, like, this growth plan. You'll see, wastewater treatment plant. You'll see.
Now that's important.
It's huge. Nobody's going to live here if they can't flush a toilet.
That's right. You get water and sewer.
Mm-hmm. Public safety, they can see. We've gained ground there. But these are things we're doing within the budget. We're truly not affecting kind of the governance side of things in regulatory controls. And those are really hard to affect. And I don't know that anybody expected us to know week one how we were going to get in there and do that. And it takes a little bit of time. But I think the Sunset Committee is a result of me trying to do this one at a time, and it doesn't function. I need a group. I need a licensed professional expert. I need the how-tos and the whys, and here's why you can't stop us from doing it. Like, this is okay. I need that, because the bureaucratic controls just want to hold on to all of it. And so if you're going to be a change agent, I think you gotta learn what I've learned, but then you've got to surround yourself with the policy and the procedure to be able to implement it. And that's this next step. Like, if you're trying to do it on your own, you're not going to get up that hill.
Well, I think a lot of people have complained about the fact that Amarillo hasn't done, their perception is that, why isn't anything growing north and west
Right.
and in Potter County, or why is everything going outside the city?
Uh-huh.
People they kind of see it, but they don't really understand why. But you, I think, just explained why.
I live here. I mean, I've been here for 46 years, born and raised, but I live here in this industry, 26 years in the building industry and the trades. I am a customer of my own entity, and I know how difficult it can be to get through it. And so what we're doing right now is really going to have a big impact, but it really only changes one thing. It doesn't change the city growing. See, the city's growing already.
It's going to grow.
It's already growing. It's growing outside of the city limits. So what you're saying is the metric that I'm using, I need to expand that boundary to expand that tax base. It's a simple concept. How do we expand that? We've got to make it more friendly to do business within the city limits, and that's what we're trying to do.
I think what the way that I have to look at it, my opinion is, growth is going to come. So you can either prepare for it,
Sure,
and plan for it, or it's going to run over the top of you, and it's going to be a mess.
Well, and in our case, it'll go around you.
Or go around.
I mean, it'll just go right around you.
That's right.
You drive between Amarillo and Canyon right now, and if you hadn't driven, the old VFW road
Yep.
in the last 5 years, you drive out there and you'll never leave town. Back in the day, I mean, you had a ways to go, and you could probably go just about as fast as you wanted and didn't see much until you got to the stop sign. Right now, I mean, it is a city out there, and so we are doing a good job of growing and working around some of this stuff. What I think we can do better is enable the city to expand its boundaries, and we can still do all that by capitalism. You make it a good deal, and that's all I'm looking for.
Exactly. That's why I'm, personally, I don't think any city should have an EDC. If you have good schools, good infrastructure, good public safety, fire, police, and low taxes, business is going to flock to your community.
And it does. And our EDC, the reason we have an EDC? Mm-hmm. Because we voted it in.
That's right.
And so because we voted it in, it's part of the apparatus that I'm responsible to help grow and improve. And this has been a rough change. We've shaken it up, rocked the boat, whatever you want to say. but we've done no harm. The harm that has been done is done by outside forces, and ultimately there's a zero tolerance for it. But what that entity can do, it needs to do everything it can do until the taxpayer says they don't want it. Right now, even if we turned the faucet off, you'd have to continue to charge those taxes and pay into that entity for 7 to 10 years because of the current obligations. And so it's not as simple. Once you start this, it's not like you can just stop it.
Well, you could just go buy them out with what the money's left in there.
Really, you probably couldn't. I don't think it's a 0-0 net. So I think by the time you really look at it, we are in a position where we need to restructure that in order to make it function better. And it's not a bad way to grow. It's not a bad entity.
I think it's one of those things that sounds good, but in reality, does it really work? Because you have certain people picking winners and losers, right. And I just don't think that's a good system personally. I think you have to let the market work. When you skew the market, bad things happen, and if they don't play certain games, then certain people don't. Good businesses don't come. So
at the risk of being wrong, right now, my opinion is it's not an either or, it's a both. So it's not either we have it or we don't. It's we have it and it can work, but it needs to do good deals, and it can do both. It can function alongside of capitalism without picking winners and losers, and it can also make good deals. And the key to make that happen is the right people. You got to have good, hard-nosed businessmen in there that will do the work. And you can't just be...
I think you need honorable people that aren't going to use it to benefit themselves.
You can't be assuming that everybody's down there for the right reasons and nobody would ever take anything. You have to put in those transparent, paradigms and parameters to where everybody sees all that.
Yeah, anytime people want something hidden or they're special and you don't get to know, that's a problem.
Same way on the construction site. I can't just assume I got great subs everywhere and that, everybody is gonna put all the material into the project. We've got to have a manifest. How many, 2x4s were on the job? How many did we use? How many went back? Did I get my credit? And so it's being in the details. We got a really good temporary board over there, and we're moving into March, so we'll have a permanent board. And those people that we select will be the key to success in that entity.
Yeah, you got building inspectors going around to make sure the builders aren't cutting corners. Mm-hmm. So you need EDC inspectors making sure they're not cutting corners.
Well, you are the EDC inspector.
Yeah.
And what we've not done is given you a good opportunity to see it.
Yeah.
And so what we will do is we will have those policies that allow you to do those inspections. And we'll mandate those reports come out so we can see those ROIs. And
that's what it's all about.
That's
Return
what we've
on
been
investment.
Missing. Yeah.
That's what the voters and the taxpayers demand. I mean, that's what they deserve.
And if I'm that EDC director, like I'm not, but I'm saying if that person is there and he knows I'm going to have to give an account for this expenditure next month, they're going to ask me about this ROI on this deal. You are not prone to go out and make bad haphazard deals just to have something moving through the entity.
Well, I don't think these things happen on purpose. They just happen because there's lack of oversight. So people get complacent and they get sloppy.
Yeah, we call that culture.
We have it. You have it in your business. I have it in mine. Every receipt has to say where did it go and what it was for, right? No matter what it is. Everything has to have a work order attached to it. Who called it in, what it's about, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then you have a clean record. And you have to have that.
All comes down to good policies.
That's it.
And then leadership. And leadership has to lead by example. Otherwise, you're not. And you can go through all the stuff that the Trump admin is doing right now. USAID is a great example. Didn't have good policies, not reporting correctly, don't know where the money's at. On a local level, that's not what we have. But we don't have the ROI because we're not looking at those policies.
You've identified a problem, and you're fixing it.
Correct. Yeah, and the problem was identified. I mean, I didn't identify the problem. I have gone and looked. I've had a shovel. I've dug for stuff before, and I found some problems. The monies that weren't getting put into the roads that we found, that was a problem we found. and I had to dig for it. But then this one was found, and so regardless, it is a problem. We've called it what it is, and we are fixing it, and it will get fixed.
So what was the problem with the roads? What was going on there? Why
Well,
wasn't that being distributed?
So the biggest issue was the road monies. You know, there was $90 million worth of road monies that should have been expended back in 16, 17. And you could have gotten $90 million worth of road work done.
Yeah, now it's
They
$30 million.
Well, they did roughly $30 million worth of work, and then they didn't do anything for 4 or 5 years. Then they said, well, let's go do all these residential slurries. And so they did another $30 million worth of work. And then I said, man, where's the list of the roads? You know, what did we not get to? Well, when I started looking, it was well over half. Well, how are we getting to these? Oh, we'll only get to like 4 of those. Well, how are we going to go back to our taxpayer and tell them, we got your money here. We're not, because I was told the money was gone. All but $6 million was gone. And that's all we had left. And so really it went from 6 million to 16 million. And then when I really looked, it was $38 million. So right now we're expending the $38 million, but it took me over a year to find that money. And it wasn't upfront, and it wasn't willfully like, hey, we've got this. So where the money was, honestly, I don't know. But the money is going into the roads. Now the problem is $38 million is getting me, 40% of the road work that I could have had back in 16 or 17. Poor management of those monies at a leadership level. And so once again, found a problem, fixing the problem, but taking it on the chin out there for whether you're mad because you got orange cones you got to drive around, or because road quality is not what it is. Almost every problem that this city council has inherited is, either a decade or more old. It is a kick the can mentality. And I'm not blaming any certain council, but I am saying this council is engaged at a level where we're willing to do the work. And I think that's what you're going to have out of your local leaders to fix these kinds of problems.
You have people on the council now that care and have some experience, right? So they're able to go in and find things that maybe a less council with people with different skill sets weren't able to see, maybe.
Well, and I think if I was sitting on a previous council, maybe I would have had a better comfort out of existing staff has been here so long. There's no real change. We're not being advised. I don't know how much of it they knew, but then the things that they knew, maybe they were just overwhelmed by like, well, we can't afford that, so let's not vote on it or take it to the voter. But now it's to the point of like the wastewater treatment plant is baling wire and duct tape. Like I got 4 or 5 years out of that. Like there's no life expectancy, so I cannot push that off. I am going to deal with that problem. This council will deal with that problem. And so $38 million, once again, thanks to Congressman Jackson, his office, and those other representatives that we have that pushed hard to get that money here for research and design. So that $38 million will get us designed, but it won't change one bolt out there. That is hopefully $300 million, but all the way up to like $900 million is what I've been told, depending on how much you want to upgrade.
So I had to spend $500,000 on mine last year, so I shouldn't complain.
Oh, $500,000's a lot of money. So, I'd like to have a $500,000 problem. It's funny, when I got elected, I'm like, there's a $20 million problem out there. I didn't know I'd have a $200 million problem or a $900 million problem, and as a voter, none of us knew it, and so I think we are doing the work the right way, regardless of what happened before. It doesn't matter. These are our issues.
Here's the situation. How do we fix it?
And then,
and it's not whether or not we can afford it. How do we pay for it?
Yeah. And we have done a good job of working it in your existing budget. Unfortunately I have raised your taxes 3.5% every year. And that is the most that I can do without bringing you to a ballot. And I won't. I'm not going to bring a tax increase to the public. It's not something that would happen, and it's not something that we're advocating for. We are, though, trying to reprioritize all those monies and put them where we need them. And I have justifiable needs, plus I have inflation and everything else. So it's easy to see it. But at some point, the deregulation side is going to help me, because the trajectory that we're on is not an affordable trajectory.
It's come to a head.
It has.
We've reached a tipping point of overregulation where everything's either going to collapse because nobody can afford anything anymore, or we're going to deregulate and use some common sense.
So, I'm just a dumb construction kid, that graduated high school and put in a business at 19. I got a lot of IQ 180 geniuses that are at the federal level right now, and they're showing us how you work and do this. And the way that they figured it out with a $2 trillion deficit, like, you're not going to keep going. So you're going to have to go through the budget and learn how to live within your means. And so I agree with you. Either the system will fail, or we will learn how to live within the system's budget, and that's what we're trying to do. But it's going to take all of us, and then it's just going to take some patience.
But it takes the people in the community.
Well, you're the answer, not me.
Yeah.
And then the communication is the design that we have to stick to.
But I think people need to understand it's not unique to Amarillo.
Correct.
I mean, it's in every city in America. I just had a call yesterday from a guy in Midland. $1.5 billion bond issue for school. Now they're going to do another $500 million bond issue. Yeah. He wants to leave Midland. Where can I go and get away from this? And I said, you need to stand and fight.
We have our problems, but like anything, if we all put our problems, on the table, we probably take ours back. Amarillo looks far better than most communities. Yeah. Even our roads that are in, some of them really deteriorated states. Overall, our road rating index is better than most, and better than the national
go
average.
to New Mexico.
Sure.
And then come back to Amarillo, and you'll be pretty thankful for our roads.
I am convinced, though, that when I got elected almost 2 years ago, I had a window of opportunity, and we've made the most of that window. And if we don't take this momentum and continue to make these changes, I don't think that a council from me, 4 years from now, would even have the opportunity. I think they would look at us and say, why did you do this to us? And I know I've felt that at times, but I still have that opportunity. And so with these changes, even though they're uncomfortable, we're on the right road.
Yeah, you're taking the bull by the horns. Well, we appreciate it, Cole.
Hey, thanks for letting me be on. I know it's a candid conversation, and it's a lot, but it's where I'm living right now. So
I think this is what the people want to hear. They want to hear the truth, and they'll understand.
Yeah, and the numbers are the numbers, and the facts are the facts. If you don't get on Facebook, and get all your news from there, then you actually see what's going on. And there's plenty of places like yours that are updating people, and I'm happy to take a phone call.
Well, I can't get on Facebook, so I'm spared from all of that. Plus, I don't have the time to mess with social media anyway. I don't think it works. Most of the people on there, I don't think vote.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people that like to talk, but they don't do.
Right. Yeah. I definitely know there's a place in social media, that's very unhelpful. But for right now, I
show up at the council meetings, find out what's really going on, not somebody else's opinion. Yeah. Listen, and if you want to be involved, and if you have a concern.
Well, I greatly appreciate anybody that's willing to get out there and do the work. And that's what we need. We're just volunteers, and I want my kids to want to raise their kids here, my grandkids, and I want them to stay here, not move off. And we have some of the best resources, and Texas is growing leaps and bounds, better than the rest of the nation, and the nation's turned around. And so we have every reason to be optimistic if we're hard workers.
Yeah.
But if you're not a hard worker, you're not going to be comfortable here for a while.
Well, very good. We want people that'll show up and produce.
Man, I appreciate you having me. I'll come back in a couple of weeks.
All right, Cole. Appreciate it. Thanks for the job.
Yes, sir.